And here we go for another episode of The Secret Life of Entrepreneurs. Today's guest is joining us from, well, a little bit of a different location. While we're usually sitting in studio together, of course, this last little while we've been broadcasting remotely, and our guest today is joining us from her work environment. That part's pretty normal. But her work environment is not your traditional Zoom in and join the call. So I will let her give us the details. But our guest today is Erin Vaughan, and she's the owner and we'll say head mechanic at Kinetic Auto Service. So she's going to talk a little bit about how she decided to enter the trades and what she's learned in that industry that's driving her to encourage more women to enter the trades. Oh, and she's also running a very successful local business. So Erin, welcome. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me, Barb. I really appreciate that.
That looks like a really cool background. It doesn't look like a traditional auto shop background. I don't see any corny calendars behind you. Tell me a little bit about Kinetic Auto Service.
Kinetic Auto Service started in 2011, and it was kind of a need. My former business partner and I found ourselves in a business that was going bankrupt, and we thought, hey, we can do this. So we thought, let's try it out. And we kind of thought it would be a lot easier than it actually is.
Okay.
But over the years, we've definitely learned a lot. And at this point, my business partner has left. He's been gone already for almost 4 years.
Okay.
So it's just been me, which makes me the only auto repair shop in the city that is 100% female owned.
Wow.
And only one out of two in the whole province.
In the whole province. So, two things there, lots of things you said were interesting to me. But one, I think so many business owners find themselves owning a business, running a business kind of by accident. Something happened that led to it. It wasn't, I'm done school, I'm going to start my own business. So, I find that very interesting. But only two in Saskatchewan. So is the other one in Saskatoon or Prince Albert?
She's in Saskatoon.
And do you know each other? Do you collaborate at all? Or really, do you find that you collaborate with all shop owners?
I do find that there are a group of professional shops in Regina and Saskatoon that I do collaborate with. I do coach. I take classes so that I can continuously build my business, management classes. And we actually, it's kind of really cool because we have our own group on Facebook and we can ask, hey, what are you doing with this? And what are you doing with this? And it's actually kind of like a really nice community as opposed to just like being competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And see, to me, that's huge. Collaboration will grow everyone's business way more quickly than any one person trying to compete with everyone in their circle. And your business might grow in the short term, but you're not building the relationships that you need to in the long term. And so it's a short-term plan for failure. That's my own personal opinion, but right?
No, I think you're totally right. I think that in business, you have to look at this as like the long road and how are you going to get through that. And I think the only way to do so is to be able to collaborate, make relationships with other businesses that are in the same industry, but also outside of your industry. Because really, they have different ideas than we do.
Exactly. And, I think it's pretty uncommon, somebody in the marketing field might collaborate with somebody in the auto service field, but guaranteed you've got ideas that would, help fuel my business and vice versa. Right.
Absolutely.
And it's not always about here, I'm going to consult with you. Here's what you should do with your marketing. It's about sharing ideas and it's about what does our community need at some point in time. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's back up. How in the heck did you end up in the trades?
Well, actually, my wife told me when I was 26 that I had to choose a path in my life and to get out there and get a real job. So.
Okay. So wait, what were you doing at the time? Were you working in a shop at the time?
No, I wasn't. I actually had no experience at all with automotive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a landlord for a local company. I was a DJ for weddings. I just did all kinds of random things.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of came to that point where she said, maybe you should get an adult job. And
Get a real job. It's time to grow up, Erin.
Pretty much, that was it. Like, it's time to grow up. So I went and looked in the SciApp calendar, that's called, calendar, to see what was available. And I obviously didn't get very far because I stopped at automotive service technician, A.
In the A's. Okay, that's hilarious.
So yeah, it was one of those things that, like, I really do like working with my hands, and I like to have. I don't like to stop moving, so sitting is kind of like a killer for me. So it's been actually really, really interesting, and this is the type of thing that really you can take with you and use. It's very nice to have. Yeah.
So, and when I look at auto service, so my grandpa used to own a service station where I grew up, and he had that service station, you know, the whole time that grandma and grandpa had kids. They were known in the community, and even as a kid, like, we would go. But what a vehicle was then, and the computers on wheels that you have to service now, and you have to have that whole breadth of knowledge, because someone can pull in with that 1950s, 60s, and 70s vehicle, or they can pull in with the latest and greatest off the lot. So, like, how do you put all of that together? Because that's huge.
It is. Well, it's really, we see a lot more of the newer ones than we do the older ones. There's the odd older one that does come in, but we don't spend a lot of time with them, actually. There's the odd one that maybe it's it's just maybe a one-off that we'll take in. But at this point, like, if it has to do with a carburetor, pretty much the test was, we were given all the answers in school. Here's the carburetor, here's the answers to the test, because we don't see them really anymore. So we do the odd things on older vehicles, but for the most part, it's 2000 and up. So
so the last 20 years for the most part.
Absolutely, and we really still are seeing a vast amount of change in those 20 years. So we just, it's a learning lesson every day. We're always learning, which is, again, why it's so cool, and why it makes us pretty good technicians too, because we can take the information that we've learned on a Ford, and it may apply to a Honda. So we do have that advantage over the dealerships because we do have the exposure to everything.
Yes. Do you find that it's almost like a puzzle? Oh, we got, such and such a vehicle in today, and maybe it's older, maybe it's newer, but this is happening and we can't figure out where it's coming from. Or is it really as simple as we hook it up, we run the diagnostics tell us the problem, and now we just have to solve it?
No.
There's no such thing as the simple button. Okay, good.
No, it's not simple. Really, the thing is we can hook our scan tool up to it and see what the codes are, see all the data that happened in the failure, and then we take that information and start looking through the repair procedures that are from the manufacturer. So we subscribe to a bunch of programs so that we have all of that information, and so we just follow a diagnostic tree to come up with what the problem is and test everything. So it's very complicated. We've become computer technicians.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not an auto tech anymore. It's computer tech. And so if my vehicle was under warranty, which it's not, can you guys fix it, or does it still have to go to the dealership?
It needs to go to the dealership for warranty related work.
Okay.
Anything other than that, if you're getting any maintenance done, like oil changes, anything that you have to pay for, that can be done anywhere. As long as it's done properly, as long as there's records, your vehicle will still have warranty. And as long as the parts that are being used are at the same quality as the original manufacturer.
Okay. See, and that's interesting to me, because having to go back to the dealership all the time, the dealership that I was dealing with, like, it was a pain in the butt. It was location, like, it was everything, right? Yeah. And so when my warranty ended, I wasn't sad.
No, and actually that's a pretty common statement. And it's unfortunate because I think that they do have a lot of loyal clients that would probably stay. But I think the most common thing that I hear from people is they just don't feel like they're heard. And they just kind of feel like a number.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's not totally uncommon when it comes to bigger businesses either. People feel that way when they go to a bigger business.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense to me. Okay. So you totally ended up in the trades by accident because it started with an A and that's where you stopped.
Kind of.
That's hilarious. I got to remember that one. I at least got halfway through the alphabet. Wonder how many people get to woodworking.
Well, I don't know. Well, see, carpentry, see.
This is true, hey? Oh God,
Yeah.
that's funny. Okay, and now I know you're also doing some work to encourage more women to consider the trades, and it's not just the auto service trade, but trades in general. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm on an advisory board to assist the Office to Advance Women Apprentices, and this is just helping try and show women that, or girls really, that there is a place for them to go. And then if they have decided to go that path, it just supports them throughout their apprenticeship, and then even after, once they get their journey person certificate. And the hope is that we can get more women involved, because really, like, we're always crying for employees. Like, the automotive industry is always looking for technicians, and there's this huge pool of people that would like to do it if they knew about it. And you know, in Canada, there's only 6.5% of employees that are in the trades that are women. And I really think that, you know, we can bring that up. And so this organization started in Newfoundland, and they have spread now to Nova Scotia, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan as well. And so I'm participating in the Saskatchewan portion of this office.
So, you know, and that's interesting to me. So if you look at I'll say the teaching profession, it is very heavily dominated by women, and I don't know what percentage are men. If you look at my own profession, it's fairly heavily dominated by women. And in fact, that's something that I don't like, right? Like I actually enjoy working with men, and anytime I've worked in an environment where there's more men than women, as long as there's still, you know, at least a few token females in there, I find that I enjoy that environment much more. And so it's interesting to me, there's all these industries where women are underrepresented, and yet there's so many other industries where they're overrepresented. And the shift, the dynamic to balance that out seems to be happening so slowly. What's driving that? Why is that happening so slowly, do you think?
I think that really it starts at the parenting when children are small, you know, allowing them to know that there are more options than being a nurse for a female and being a mechanic for a male. I think that's kind of the portion of, that's the part that I think we need to start at is letting little girls and little boys know that they can do whatever they want to do.
Whatever they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I think that that's where it needs to start. It needs to start at home. There have to be options, you know, discussed, and that's where,
that's where it starts. You know, it was interesting to me when my son was, I'm going to say he was 5, because he was old enough that you could have a conversation, but like he hadn't been exposed to a huge world yet. And we were driving home from the mall one day, and I made a statement about, you know, him maybe being a doctor. We don't have any medical professionals in our family, so it was just an off-the-cuff conversation. And his response to me was, well, I can't, Mom, because my skin's the wrong color. And I was dumbfounded, but I realized every healthcare professional that he had dealt with in his short little life wasn't Caucasian. And so he had made this assumption that, you know, he had to be a certain color. Our daughter is adopted, and she's from Africa. So my son is Caucasian. My daughter is African. And they always used to think that every family had children of multiple colors. And they would ask people, oh, okay, so you're this color. What color is your sister? And people would look at my kids and be like, what are you talking about? But they just thought it was normal.
Yeah.
Right? And so now they understand. And I'm like, no, you can't quite say it like that. Right? You're going to explain it to them a bit. But those preconceived notions come from such an early age where, you know, mom and dad can talk till they're blue in their face. But if the extended family or all the friends are, you know, so there's so many influences. And of course, one of the big ones is TV. Every teacher you see on TV tends to be a girl, and every mechanic you see on TV tends to be a boy. So those social norms, I would say TV is behind what the world actually looks like. It's not reflecting, the world anymore.
Oh, totally.
Right? But it's what we're comfortable with.
Well, and what we see, and I
Yes.
think you're right. Like, people need to obviously start becoming more comfortable with seeing diversity, no matter whether that's in color or whether that's in career. And I think that now that we have these other platforms like Netflix and Crave, they're allowed to produce whatever they want. And
Yes.
they don't have to go along with whatever rules there were. So I think it's actually kind of great because, you start seeing more people being represented.
Yeah. And I think it's race, it's culture, it's religion, it's love, like it's everything. It's across the board, right? And so we're being acclimatized, which builds a comfort level. So what my grandparents sort of were willing to accept, and I'll be honest, they weren't the most accepting people. Again, love them to death, but they weren't always the most accepting people. And fast forward to our kids, when we explain to our kids that people that we went to school with used to have a special classroom and they were segregated, my kids are just horrified that a child who may have had autism or a physical need different than their own would have been segregated. They were like, they wanted to turn the clock back. Yeah. And so, yeah, everything starts to change and society starts to change, right? So tell me about some of the initiatives that the committee or the group is doing to encourage more women to get into the trades now that you're spreading across, a few of the other provinces.
Well, it did start in Newfoundland, and now these other provinces have joined on. And in Saskatchewan specifically, Shyla, who is the coordinator, she's just going around to all the trades and just getting businesses signed up, and any female technicians or laborers or whomever, carpenters, she's getting them signed up so that she can help them move through their apprenticeship program, and then again, support them afterwards. They are trying to get out into high schools and discuss, this type of thing with the students in the high schools. I'm not too sure really at this moment what they're doing for elementary, but I do think that there's absolutely a way for them to be able to get in and start having discussions with girls in elementary schools. And I'm sure that will happen once schools open again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think, kids are so hands-on nowadays. When you walk down, the hallway in a school, they're not just sitting at their desk with pencil and paper anymore. They're in the hallway, they've got a laptop, they're working in groups, they're, sprawled all over. So the sooner they're exposed to something and they get to be hands-on and see how cool and fun it is, the more likely they are to be, attracted to that kind of thing. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's very good. So tell me about your shop. What's different about your business than some of the others in town? Or, what do you really pride yourself on?
I think we pride ourselves the most on being transparent, trustworthy, and we do our very best to communicate effectively with our clients so that they know what they're driving. We do digital inspections, so when somebody brings in their vehicle, every single vehicle that comes in gets this digital inspection. And it's pretty much just kind of like a snapshot in time of this is the condition of your vehicle. And it will alert us to any type of dangerous things that need to be looked into further. So I think the thing that is the most different about us is that, I don't know, I don't want to say there are all of these things I'm doing right. I know that what I do is I provide my employees with an inclusive, comfortable environment, that mental health is important, and a balance is important for them. I don't make them work overtime, things like that. And so what I want for our clients is to walk into a place that feels comfortable, that they can trust, that have people that are doing what's best for them. And I believe that that's what we're doing. And I'm sure there are potentially other shops that are doing this. I do know other shops that are. And I'm proud to be a part of that group of shops.
Yeah. So you actually said the word trust twice as you were describing your business in different ways. And trust isn't always something that's been associated with your industry. So is there something that you're doing different or very purposefully and consciously to help instill trust in your clients, or clients, trusting you. But even as you're hiring staff and training staff and communicating your expectations to staff, how do you build up that trust factor
with our clients?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really about giving them all of the information. I think
Okay.
that really is what it comes down to, is just, here is the information, do with it as you will.
Yep.
And what we do too is we try and help people budget. So we say, okay, so today this is required, and in about 3 months this is required, and it just is good for them to be able to have that plan in place. Okay, well, I need to save this amount of money for this next appointment, and then we can just keep their vehicles running, perfectly.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't have, avoiding breakdowns is very important. That's, our whole goal.
Exactly.
We don't want our clients' vehicles towed in. So, and it's actually very, very rare that happens.
Is it?
Yeah, we do a very good job just keeping people up to date on their vehicles, and they need these things to keep it running. And again, we've done a good job building that trust.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's key, because if you've built the trust, then when you tell me something needs to be done, I'm that much more likely to do it.
Yeah.
But if the trust isn't there and you're telling me to do something, and especially if it's something expensive in a vehicle and it's inevitable, the day after warranty, that's when it all happens, right? We all know that.
Yeah.
Once that trust is built up, it's like, oh, okay, well, they said we need, and so you don't question it the same way.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing is it's very difficult for us to do our jobs and take care of people if they don't trust us. So building trust is absolutely number one.
Yeah, it's key, definitely. Yeah. As we're coming out of COVID, you guys are back open. I can hear the sound in the background. Did you make some changes during COVID that will last?
Yes, I believe so. And technically, our door is not open to the public yet.
Okay.
Mainly because I wasn't too sure. There's just so much information that I thought it would be best to just continue on with what we're doing. And what we're doing is we're doing pickup drop-off service. We're not charging for it at this point. I suspect at some stage we will probably start to charge for it. But for right now, we're just trying to pick up vehicles, service them, disinfect them before and after service, and bring them back. And, actually we're finding that our clients are loving that. So it is one of those things where we think, okay, well, they love this. They don't have to go anywhere.
Yep.
And they can continue on with their lives. Because the issue right now is, like, how am I going to give somebody a ride to work? That's the thing that's hard, is, like, I can't put them in the van next to me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the challenge that we're having. And so for us to not do that, I feel like our customer service suffers. So I feel like if we just stick with this for as long as we can, this might be our business model for a while, is pick up, drop off.
Right. So, and I suppose that, if somebody drove themselves to work, you could pick the vehicle up from work, bring it back to their place of employ by the end of the day. And yeah, I suppose it changes the model, but I agree with you. We were talking on the weekend about winter trips, and I said, I think it's going to be a couple of years before we do a winter trip again. Like, it's just,
I think so.
And the precautions that are in place, because here's my thing. Let's say that you do get to go someplace. So you get there, you have this wonderful trip, and now it's time to come home. And of course, I expect by the time that all of this can happen, they're going to be taking temperatures at the airport and doing some things like that. So now all of a sudden, they take the temperature of your 12-year-old and discover that they have a fever. Now what? How does that work with insurance? Does one parent stay? Because a 12-year-old can't stay on their own. Do the other two travel? Like, it opens up this huge can of worms.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
you're right.
Yeah. And it's no different than you guys. You guys pick up a vehicle, and I'm sure you've, got gloves on, or you're sanitizing before you get in. But all of that takes time, and in business, time is money. Right?
It is. You're right. And so then what I need to do going forward is I have to figure out, what the cost of that is. Is that something somebody is willing to pay for? So I think for us, everything's fine as it is. Like, we're working we've gotten used to this way of doing work.
Right.
And I think we'll stick with it until we feel like we can. contained.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Erin, believe it or not, we're pretty much out of time. And in fact, we're over time. So, oh well, we'll talk fast to wrap it up. Tell people where they can find you and how they get in contact with you to book an appointment or just learn more about your trustworthy service.
We are located at 845C McDonald Street. You can call 789-4710. You can email info@kineticautoservice.ca. You can go on our website, kineticautoservice.ca. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, I'm all over the place.
I just say you're everywhere.
Google Kinetic Auto Service and you'll find us.
There we go. Awesome. Perfect. All right. That brings us to the end of another show. And Erin, thank you very much for joining me today. Erin and I actually had this conversation twice because technology failed us the first time round. And so I always like to tell my guests, it's like having a cold beer on a Friday or a glass of wine. And so Erin and I got to do this twice.
Very nice. It was very nice.
Awesome. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at barb@googlegirl.ca or just reach out on Facebook and Instagram at Above the Fold CA. Just a reminder, you can submit questions in advance of the live show on our Facebook page. I'm your host, Barb McGrath, local business owner and Google Girl. Remember, you worked hard for your success. Don't keep it a secret. Bye for now.